I am very excited today to share with you a gentleman who is making a huge difference with youth. He is the founder and executive director of the Ever Forward Club. And this club is a nonprofit that's dedicated to eliminating dropout rates through youth mentorship. He's created the award winning hashtag Million Mask Movement, which has over 75,000 participants worldwide. He is making a difference, y'all. And y'all know education is close to my heart. And so I love this program. But let me just tell you a little bit about his background. He is a Fulbright Fellow. Okay, y'all. He's a Fulbright Fellow. He considers his work as an emotional locksmith and has been featured on CNN with Lisa Ling and on the Kelly Clarkson Show. He is also a recipient of the 2023 U.S. Surgeon General's Medallion, and he is a 4 times Tedx speaker. Okay, so I want y'all to get ready to hear some wisdom. I'm really excited to have this conversation with Ashanti Branch. Welcome, Ashanti.
Hello. Thank you. Glad to be here. I appreciate that.
Before we go into the usual questions, is there anything you'd like to share with the listeners to help them get to know you better?
I think the bio is like that highlight reel of all the stuff, but sometimes life looks a little bit different in the behind the scenes. But no, I'm just thankful.
Let's talk about you. What are
Yeah.
your favorite words, phrase, quote, or book?
My favorite book is The Alchemist. It is a book that I got my first time before I was leaving the country, the first time on a bigger trip. And I read it pretty much almost every year for
Yeah.
almost at least 20 years. And it's every year it's almost a different book. Last year when I read it, I went to the pyramids right afterwards. It was the first time I ever felt called to the pyramids. And I think from that book, there's this quote that I used to write when I was an educator in students' yearbooks. And I would be like, may your dreams take you where you never expected to go. And that's the quote. I don't know where I got it from, but I now own it. I now do it regularly. And that's the journey of inviting young people in my work to dream big and wider than their own imagination. And so that's the quote that I hold. And that's the book
Mm.
that I haven't read it this year yet. So it needs to be on the list this year to get back into rotation for sure.
I love that quote. It's so funny, like the synchronicity of things, because I start every class with a quote and a question.
Mm.
And today's quote was, no matter where you're from, your dreams are valid.
Mhm.
It's a quote and a question. So that was the quote. And the question was, what can you dream of that's ridiculous?
Mm.
It's just outrageous. And so I hear that in the quote that you share. And you don't even have to think of it. You just have a future that unfolds, like be
Yeah.
open. For anyone who hasn't read The Alchemist, would you give them a 2 or 3 sentence why they ought to read?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna sound like I'm a salesman for the book. The Alchemist is written by Paulo Coelho. He's a Brazilian writer. The book is about a boy named Santiago Andalusia. He's a shepherd boy. And without telling you the whole story, it's about your living your personal legend, like this dream of what you dreamed of and what gets in the way. It is a story of a boy going on a journey. He has everything he needs. He has a sheep. He goes off. He sells the wool every year, comes back, walks the sheep. He knows the best place for the best grass to give the best growth of his sheep. And it is a journey of him deciding one day that I want something more and having to go to his father and back in those days to tell his father that, you know what, I'm done with this chapter and I want to get my inheritance and I want to go out and live the world. And he goes on a journey, lots of journeys, some ups and downs, but he's a reader. He loves books. He uses a book as a pillow and as an opportunity to read to his sheep. And he is on an adventure of figuring out his own personal legend. And he feels called. And I think one of the quotes of the book that they say is when a person really, truly desires something, the whole universe conspires to help that person achieve those dreams. Not in the idea of a magical thing. It's in the idea of as you begin to get clear about what you want, your eyes begin to get clearer about the things that you need or that you've been missing all along to help you get there. As the journey of my life began before I was born, as I showed up here on the planet, and I got awakened to, oh, here's what life is going to look like or looking like, and a lot of things I didn't get to choose. And then when those moments where began to be able to choose, I just began to try and make the best decisions I could make with the information I had. And so, yeah, I think it's about if you have let a dream go, you have forgot about a dream in your life, it hopefully will bring you more joy to go after that dream. And that's what
And I'm pretty certain that another brother, that book stood out for him as well. So, anyway, listeners, you can always use this show to help you find good reads.
yeah.
What is a significant person, moment, or event that either changed the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
I think just recently I have been reflecting on the 20-year journey of this work that I've been doing for forward. And this is actually a negative person, but I'm now making sense of what had to happen in that moment. So when I came back from the Fulbright Fellowship from India, it was an exchange. So the teacher from India came to my school. I went to her school. We were there for 7 months. So when I got back to US, back to my school, we had a new principal, and this principal seemed to have some issues with me. I had not ever met the person until I got back in the country. I don't know what it was, but there was something. And because I'm a person feels everything, I can tell when somebody is treating me a certain kind of weird way. And I've just gotten good at just even pretending like it's not there, or just putting on this mask and being like, "Oh, everything's fine." But it was not healthy and it was not good. And I'll tell one story in particular. Students were having a protest out in front of the school over some valedictorian drama. The student who was connected to our program was one of the students fighting for her right to be acknowledged as a valedictorian also. And so the students were having a protest across the street from the school. So they were road racing with their signs up. And I heard about it and I went out there. It's my lunchtime. I don't have a duty at lunch. And I go over there and I'm like, hey, folks, just so you know, when the bell rings, just be prepared that there may be a consequence if you stay out here. So I'm not telling them,
Mhm.
I'm not telling them I'm supporting it as much way as possible, but I'm not carrying any signs.
Yeah.
And so the principal comes out there across the street while I'm talking to students. I'm talking to students who I know and who are protesting. Some students are protesting just because, but I'm only talking to students who I know. And she was like, Mr. Branch, get these students inside. And I was like, first of all, I got there's certain just things that just don't work with me. Like you were yelling at me, barking at me. My mom barely gets away with that, but she does.
Right.
But this lady in the middle of the boulevard, she's like yelling at me in front of all these students. It's my job to be making students go inside the building. And I'm like, it's lunchtime. That's not my job. Help me get inside these students. Like, you're being subordinate, blah, blah, blah. And I had to just keep cool because there's a lot of heated energy out there already. And now she's
Mhm.
like barking at me. And so I did my best to just, ignore it and be really clear. I'm on my lunch break, and be respectful because I'm not here to be disrespectful. But all of a sudden, there's a disrespect happening. And I think in that moment of me coming back to the country, really doing all the work I needed to do for the program I was running, I made a decision that I get to choose. I get to choose, right? That's in another book that I really call Man's Search for Meaning, talks about what happens between the stimulus and the response. And
Mhm.
as a hothead from Oakland, California, born and raised, like that 17-year-old who was super immature and petty, he don't put up with a whole lot of drama, you know what I'm saying? He got a hot head, and I'm like, "Okay, Shanti, you stay back. You're safe here. You're not in danger. Yep, handle this in a good way." And I just
Mm.
literally tried to, like, let it roll off, and I just was clear. I said, "I'm not working right now, so this is not my job. You want them inside, you get them inside." And I think that my ability to hold ground in that moment and not go into a bunch of bleeping language, like coming at me in a certain way, I felt justified to come back at you in a certain way. But I'm gonna show my students that this can happen in a different way because they're all watching. They're
Of
protesting, but they're
course.
watching.
Of
Anyway, all that to
course.
say, I left that school at the end of that year. That was where Ever Forward Club was founded. I didn't want to leave that school, but I was also knowing how leadership works in schools and how if the leadership is creating more
Yes.
problems for you, it makes your work even harder. Teaching is already
Mhm.
hard, and
Mhm.
that was a hard decision to leave. But as I look back, if it didn't happen, if I didn't leave then, I think imagine all the things that I look back and say, oh, then I wouldn't have been there when that happened. I wouldn't have been there. And then, and all these things you get to see, oh, that had to happen in order for me to have stepped into the next chapter of my own dream, vision.
Yeah.
And I think that as much as I held on to that aggression of that person for so long, I've let it go. And I was like, thank you very much for all the pain you put in the way, because it was a test of how bad did I really want this dream. And so,
Mm.
yeah, that's one of the moments that I just recently was able to let it go. Because every time I would hear that person's name, I would just like grimace. I was like, "Oh," like, and it was just poison. It was me taking the
Yeah.
poison, and it was not serving me. And so when I finally let it go, I laugh and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, that was a chapter in this 10-20 year journey that I was in the early days of it, but it was definitely something that had to happen in order for other things to happen.
Now you were teaching at the school.
At that
Yeah.
time, yeah, I was a math teacher.
Uh-huh. And the way in which she interacted with you, the hostility, I'll even say,
Yeah,
it caused you to make a choice that set you on the path of being the leader of a movement.
yeah, yeah. But there was never a reason to leave that school. I had tenure. That's where our program was started. We were doing amazing work with youth. It was fantastic. And that leader, when that person came in, created such a unhealthy situation. And I think other teachers were like, Don't worry, the principals only stay a couple of years.
Yeah.
Principals are in and out.
Yeah.
Just hold in there." And I knew that coming to teaching, I didn't come to it for a job, right? I didn't come to it to hold on to security. I came to make a difference, and I was like, "I'm not taking this. I'm getting paid like a peasant, and then you want me to let somebody be disrespectful to me and doing crazy, like, ridiculous kinda behavior things?" I'm like,
Yeah.
and ultimately, there's lots of, I could go to the union, I could have a file a
Yeah.
grievance, I could do all these
Yeah.
things. I'm like, I ain't got time to be doing no drama with no, you know what I'm saying? Like, teachers don't get a lot of respect. They don't get paid well, and to then have to navigate that. Now, if I was a teacher, if I was in a teaching profession because it was a job that I had to keep,
Yeah.
my experience may have been different. But I come from a job where I was getting paid 2, 3 times more, and to be like, "You gonna let my you crazy?" I it won't be me. It won't be me
Right.
who takes this, and it was a hard decision. It was like, it was a easy philosophical decision. It was a harder heart decision because I had kids who I was connected with. I had a program I started there. I didn't wanna
Yeah.
leave the students, but I knew, knowing my own self, if I had have stayed, I probably would have said something. In a moment of weakness, I would have said something that would have probably been hurtful, harmful. And I know that I'm a 6'1", 300-pound black guy. So talking to a, a petite white woman
Right. Oh,
who
yeah. Oh,
can
man.
easily say what I had done has now created threatening environments. And
Oh,
so we've seen
yeah.
enough of that to know that I'm like, okay, I have a choice here, and I'm going to make a choice. And it was a hard choice, but as I look back, I'm like, oh yeah. And literally, it only took,
Good.
I think it was like in February or March of this month. I forgot what I read, or I heard a podcast, and I was like, oh, what am I carrying? I've heard that quote before, where hating someone is
Eating poison in hopes that they
hoping that they feel it,
yeah,
right?
that they
And I was
die.
like,
Yeah.
man, every time I heard this person's name, I began to like feel this monster rise up. And I'm like, what is happening? I guess that was 12, 15, 12 years ago. Let it go.
Mhm.
And it's easier said than done. It's easier
Let
said.
me tell you, I early in my career at this school, they're the principal, and I don't know that I go so far as to be friends, but we were very cordial. We can kick it. And he was running 2 programs. I didn't like that my program seemed like the stepchild, and I was confrontational about it. That's a surprise. And it got to a point where, in short, he just lied to my face, and I was not, it felt so new to have, like, a politician would do it, you know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
Whoa, what was," and honestly, I stopped speaking to him. Like, we would just pass each other on. We couldn't, like, I can't, I don't. And then, as they say, principals come and go, and he
Yeah.
was gone. But
Yeah.
same thing, I'd hear the name, I'd just, mm,
Mm,
mm. And
mm.
then about 20, 15 years later, something 18, 19 years later, he came back around as a principal. And it was like, so you gonna get over yourself now or what? And I was like, I guess I'll get over myself now.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Thank
And let me tell you something. Here's what's beautiful. I tell you, I am so grateful to the universe that they sent him back so that we could get complete. And it turns out I have a high degree of respect for his level of management and leadership. And he's a yes man. And I'm not a yes girl. So I couldn't get with that program, but I understand what it is now. I understand who he is now, and I understand the results he gets.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like when you say peace, I ran into him in a restaurant a couple over the holidays. Hey, how you doing? And
Yeah.
so I love it. I love it. Yes. We're hurting ourselves with our holding on because if they like you and me, they might have moved on. The stuff, the people that are, upset with us, are you thinking about them? Because I know I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Excluding your parents or guardians, who was the first person that you can recall having, and I don't really like the term earned your respect, but they were the first person that you were like, oh, now that's a human being.
Yeah, it would be my grandfather, my mom's father, Glenn Goodman. He was a pastor at our church. I grew up in the church. So my mom was born in Little Rock, Arkansas. She moved to California when she graduated high school. I was born here. And my grandfather was the male figure in my life. My father had died before I was born. So being the oldest, I sometimes just needed an escape. Like I needed an escape from my house. Gosh, just all
Mhm.
these kids. But I had a lot of responsibility. So if I could sneak away and get to my granddaddy's house, meeting after church, I'd be like, "Granddaddy, can I come to your house?" And he had his own family. My aunties are younger than me. He had some kids later in his life, and he had his own family to deal with. But I would be like, anytime I could try and get away, because I know when I go
Mhm.
home, I gotta take care of these kids. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't want to go. Sometimes he'd be like, "Oh, son, not today. We got some other things we gotta go do and whatever." I said, "Okay." I always understood. It was never, I never took it personal. I never
Yeah.
thought that he was saying no because he didn't want me there. Just I knew he had two little ones and he had my uncle, which was his son. But during the summers, he would try and get me to do some work. He would try and me over to the house and he helped me learn how to build my first fence. It was at his house, but we built the fence at his house. If you don't have a father, who teaches you how to do stuff like that? Who teaches you how to work with
Right.
tools? Now, he never threw a ball with me. I don't think my grandfather ever threw a ball with me, but
Hmm.
he taught me how to pour a concrete driveway, taught me how to go to the lumber store, right? He taught me a lot of those skills that I took for granted growing up. I was just like,
Yeah.
"Oh, here we go. Granddaddy got us waking up at 7 in the morning on a Saturday morning." Like, and I always lived in apartments growing up, so he was the only person who had a grass, so it was like, you gotta get up and cut the grass. So I knew that if I was gonna go to his house, I gotta be
Yeah.
prepared that Saturday
Yeah. To
morning,
put some work in.
you gonna put some work in. At my mom's house, I'm getting up cooking breakfast for everybody. At my
Yeah.
grandfather's house, breakfast is gonna be made by somebody else. You gonna be out here cleanly. You gonna earn breakfast. That's how you gonna do it. And I know he loved me, and I don't think he I'm trying to think of the way I wanna describe it, but I would say when I was being bullied in middle school, I was hoping he was gonna teach me how to fight. I told him a story about a boy in my class who was getting bullied, and he was like, "Son, you just gotta to pray for him, and you gotta turn the other cheek." And I was like, "That's not the answer I'm looking for. I need to know how to throw these hands." Talk about it, and he was like, "Pray for him, turn." I'm like, "You're not helping, granddaddy, you're not helping." But I was also not telling him it was me. I was, like, trying to help his friend.
Right.
When I think about sometime how he gave that answer, he taught me how to respond to violence with love, because the easy way to respond to violence is with violence.
True.
It's easy to be like, "You hit me, Imma hit you. Let's go." And I had a lot of fights in elementary school, but middle school was a different world for me. And then I was like, "Oh, he taught me deeper." So when the situations in life came where I just wanna rage out, I'm like, "Okay, does it require that? I can do that. That wants to
Yeah.
come first, but maybe I need to respond in a different way." As much as I was looking for skills on how to fight, he was teaching me skills on how to be a man who is multifaceted in how you respond to situations. And for that, I'm truly grateful. I don't remember what year he passed, but it was a tough he moved lots of stuff happened with my grandfather after he got sick, he had a stroke, and then there was some drama with his wife, and they moved back to Texas, which was hard because my mom and him were very close, and so he ended up coming back out here at some point to come live with us, but by that time, he was in a wheelchair, but he was always a very stern, like, very stoic. He was in the Korean War. That's my grandfather, and that's who I think of when I think of a man who helped provide guidance for me growing up. Yeah.
I definitely have a sense of his capacity to take you under his wing along with having a family, but also I'm clear his intentionality and the things he taught you. And in regard to the fighting, you went to him looking for ways to use force, and he gave you ways to use power.
Beautiful, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
So we're switching gears here just a bit.
okay.
This work that you've done, being a scholar, being in education, the difference you make with youth and getting in their world. What insights from your career, from your training, from your organization, can you share with listeners to help them get more out of life? And that's whether they're men or women or children. Children don't listen, but parents do.
Oh, man. I think the journey of my deciding that I was gonna leave engineering and become a teacher, making that decision, it wasn't a decision that was easy decision. It took for me to come to a place of understanding that the life that I'm living is not for me. Like, my dream was to be rich, and graduating as an engineering major, making good money, living in the Bay Area, having an amazing job. I was on my way to this trajectory of financial.
The
Hey,
American dream.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right, that's exactly right. I was on the way, I was like, "Let's go." And when this teaching thing called me, I was like, "You got the wrong house," because a teacher can't live where I'm living right now, you know what I'm saying? A teacher can't go out on the weekends like I'm going out, like a teacher can't, you know what I'm saying? This savings
I'm
account is
not
not a
about
teacher.
that teacher life.
I am not. I shall I shall not be teaching anybody's kids. I was clear. There was like that was Bridge Getting Bible School song right there. We was not gonna
Hmm.
and that calling was like so loud. So I ran and got a new job, made more money, and it made the calling even louder. So I thought I was gonna get away from the call. Imagine I left engineering to become a teacher, and then from a teacher, I started a nonprofit. Now, the fact of a
You know, the
person
American dream is supposed to go up.
I and as a math teacher, I am clear that the curve of financial prosperity was going the wrong direction, and it was like, "What is wrong with you? What are you doing?" As a teacher, at least you have a guaranteed check, right? The check is
Mhm,
coming every month. It ain't a
mhm,
lot, but it's coming every month. Now, when you run a nonprofit, you gotta go hunt for the check. If you don't go hunt for the check, there is no check. Right?
mhm.
Now, I didn't grow up in a hunter-gatherer season of the world. I go to the grocery store and the food is already packaged up. I ain't gotta go hunt down no animals, but imagine a time in life where if you didn't go hunt
Yes,
and as a nonprofit
right.
leader, if you don't go raise money, meaning asking people for money asking people for money, like, that is why I wanted to be rich. So I never had to ask
Mhm,
anybody for anything again, and a life that chose me is a life where I'm constantly getting tested by having to ask people to support this mission
mhm.
because the mission is bigger than I don't have money to fund it, so I have to find the people.
Yes.
I don't wanna live a life like that, but imagine who chooses a life like that? I don't know if anybody would choose it. I wanna go around asking people for money all the time. I don't know if that's something that I would have chosen, but as I look
Right.
back, it is probably what I think God had processed is you need to learn to depend on others. You
Mhm,
are very independent, you are hardworking, but the dream that you have is bigger than you can make happen with your own 2 hands, and so you have to get to a place of understanding that you're gonna have faith. Not just talk about faith, you're going to have heartfelt, deliverable faith in action because I'm clear that there are many days that I went to bed at night and I'm like, I quit. And the next morning I got up and hired myself again and got to work because it's not easy. It's not, it definitely isn't. Like people were raising money for this 5K challenge we have coming in May, this big our 20th anniversary event. And I was in this men's organization and somebody was saying, some of the men were wondering, why do you need to raise this money? And I had to be careful that I wasn't like realizing that, oh, I thought I had explained it. I thought I had explained how this nonprofit thing worked, how it works,
Mhm,
and I realized,
mhm,
okay, I need to paint a picture for people because I think they don't get it. They
mhm,
think that
mhm.
somehow, like, it just shows up.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm
supplies
saying?
just arrived. There's paper.
Yeah.
There's a computer. You just
Yeah.
go, "I'm a
There's just
nonprofit." The computer is right there.
yeah, there's just mono markers just falling out of the sky. You just walk out in front of the office and be like, boom. This is the Amazon world. You don't put no money in the account. So I think like all that is like, oh, I have to help people see, paint a picture. And
Mhm.
because sometimes I'm getting better at it. So I won't say I'm bad at it. I'm
Mhm.
improving my skills of asking for help. I often will say, I'm gonna do it anyway. If you're a nonprofit, you need the funders. And I think because sometimes I get mad, tired of asking, I'm like,
Yeah,
we're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure out another way.
yeah.
That's not the good attitude. That's not the right attitude for the nonprofit industrial complex because you need to make the funders feel needed.
Mhm.
And if you're the kind of person who's, I'm gonna do it without you. Like when people say, what happens if we don't give you this money? Maybe the best answer for a nonprofit leader, here's a training 101 if you're starting a nonprofit, you say, huh, it'll be really hard without your support to make this thing happen. So we really need your support. Now, that's
Yeah,
probably a good 101 grant answer. But
right.
Ashanti is stubborn. And so I would say something like, we're doing it anyway. We we whether we get the money from you or I'm gonna have to invoice you
Right.
some like we
Right.
gonna get them. We get the kids are not
Yes.
gonna suffer because some person is saying I'm not gonna give you the money because that means I'm at the mercy of you. Like this
Right.
dream is not at the mercy of anybody. But imagine if no one teaches you how to go into these conversations, you may be going in
Yeah.
from a place of ego, of a place of drive and
Yes.
driven, but you're not
Yes.
answering it the way that you need to answer it to give the people who have the easy money to hand you the check
Right.
to say, "Oh, okay, we are needed." And I
Yeah.
think that it's sometimes it's an interesting kind of paradox of, "Oh, I have to do that. I'm have to do that's what this is about." And
Mhm.
sometimes having to put my ego down and be like, "Okay, here's the way you answer this question for the best results that you're looking for."
Yeah. I got so caught up in so wait, what was the insight? And Imma tell you why I got distracted because you were preaching to me and I didn't like it. God was using you, and I didn't ask you to have to just remind me that this is not the Robin Shine show. And I
Oh
can't
my
do everything by myself. And that's why I'm not looking at the camera right now because I just don't want to.
man, oh man.
It's like I produce, because I can use an AI tool. So if y'all don't want to be supporting me on Patreon, it's okay. No, I don't need you. I don't want you. I don't need you. Do it all by myself. Look, because I know how to set up a website and I will post my own social media. I can't do it all day. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do it all by myself. Dang it, God, you're gonna make me get along with people.
Oh, man, yes. Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was the insight again? I swear my mind won't get back to it.
oh, man. No, I think the deep part, I don't remember even. I think where did it come from? What
Oh, I actually know it just circled back. It's okay, this is my interpretation.
yeah.
Say yes, because you're gonna have to say yes. You can resist saying yes for
That's
as
the
long as you
insight.
want to suffer,
Yeah.
but you're gonna say yes when God asks.
Yeah. Thank you. And I even almost forgot what question I was answering. I do that. That's the question I was answering. How do you help other people, adults, to decide when that thing is calling them? And that thing, it'll just keep calling. It'll just keep calling. It'll call in a new way. It'll call. And right now, I think I'm in this new calling that I'm like, wait, come on. You can't be trying to get me to make no another big leap. What's happening? What's happening? And I realized, oh, you see, what I created 20 years ago, isn't that enough? Is that enough? That's not enough? It's not enough? I gave up the career that I thought I wanted to do this thing 20 years later. We're about to hit the 20th anniversary. Can I just finally just enjoy this? And it's the problems are much bigger than they were 20 years ago. The problems are bigger.
That was
It's
just that
training. That's
wasn't the
right.
job. That was the training.
That was
You
the
got
training.
confused.
That's right. You you thought this was the finish. This was just the
I thought, oh, we paid you during the apprenticeship, so you thought that was your career. No, baby.
yeah, exactly. Now you gotta go tell people what you did to get there after 20 years and help those who are trying to also do something amazing and who are stuck and who may have fear and who may be in doubt. Oh, you don't wanna write the book, huh? You don't believe in your writing skills. You think you're a bad writer. Oh, Imma send you an editor to help you. And she's gonna get on your
Mhm.
nerves because she's gonna keep reminding you that you need to finish this thing that you promised to have done by the end of May. Oh, you mean the person who keeps calling me and I don't wanna take her calls? The editor who's trying to help me get this oh, wait a minute. What am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? I'm avoiding the next chapter probably, right? There's a feeling
Yeah.
of, "Oh, what's making you worry? What are you nervous about? What are you nervous about?" And so finding those ways of tapping in.
The faithful life is not for the faint of heart.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Yeah. Hold on, listeners. We're just both having a moment of, we're just both looking down like, yeah. And having said that, because that was fun to indulge my ego a little bit like that. But there's so much joy in the going after it. There's so much joy. And it's sometimes painful, but it's not for the faint of heart, but it is a lot of fun when it's not pain. The only pain is really the growing pains.
The growing pains. Yeah.
So, Shanti, aside from the Obama president, which pivotal historical event from your lived experiences had a profound impact on you and shaped your perspective?
I was maybe 6, maybe I was in 1st grade, maybe 2nd grade. I think when it first came out, I don't remember the movie Roots came out.
Oh,
My mom sat us down after school. I was oldest, so it was me and then whatever my sister was squiggling over there doing, and she made me watch it, and I was confused. "Wait, what's going on here?" And it was like a 2-week long process every day after school, coming home, watching it, and I was like, "Why are they beating him? Why are they telling him his name is Toby? Why are they making him change his name?" My mom grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, so she saw a lot that I didn't see growing up in California. She came to California because my grandmother was like, "Girl, you're gonna get us killed with your big mouth." My mom had to come to California because
mm,
they couldn't handle her thinking she was something
human
special. Yeah, yeah, human, yeah,
equal.
exactly. That's right. Oh, yeah, they not in Little Rock, not in Little Rock, and my mom came out here, and when I watched this show, I remember understanding in a way that only a kid could just by watching a movie or a TV show, and knowing that's how people were treated, and a lot of confusion and questions. Like, mom did the best she could trying to answer age appropriately for her little boy, trying to figure out, like, he was gonna grow up in a world where people were gonna try and make him be something that he didn't want to be or act in a way he didn't wanna act. How much can you take when they're
Yeah.
telling you that you're a monster? How much can you take when they tell you that you have to talk like this or act like this? How much can you take of the pain? And it may not be whips, but it's the pressure and
Yeah.
the abuse words wise. And so I think that early watching that was a wake up call to, okay, there's gonna be times where people are gonna tell you this is how you have to be. And you're gonna have to decide how much do you fight. And sometimes, sadly, the way the movie showed, right, you give in on this outside, and which that
Yeah.
maybe contextually is connected to how we created this movement around masks, right? Like you may give in
Yeah.
on the outside, but inside, that's not my name. And I may have to do it to save my life in some moments, but my heart gets to continue dictating who I am and whose I am and how I show up in the world and what things I let infiltrate my heart because this world will make you believe you're not important or valuable or worthy, and I've
Yeah.
definitely felt that, so, yeah, I would say that movie, that TV show, I watched it as a little kid, gave me clarity. And I'm always shocking people who are oblivious to what people have endured.
I watched it as well when it first came out. And it was such an event. And in case there's someone who, so he just said it was a movie and it was the historical part. At no point in this nation's history had they dared to portray the cruelty, the harm, the trauma of slavery. It could be hinted at. You could have someone play a slave, but they would just be shucking and jiving, or they could cry or look sad. But to see in horrific detail what that experience was, it was a national event.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are families who chose not to watch it for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But most Black people in America and many a white family tuned in for that. Alex Haley's Roots. It's based on a book. You can read the book, but the chronicle of from Africa to here. And what it really is about is how do you implement degradation? And now, with so many streaming services, it's a whole different day. Back then, it was just broadcast TV, ABC, NBC, CBS, and a handful of sister stations. And there was this shared cultural moment. You went to work the next day, you went to school the next day. Everybody saw it. And if they said they didn't see it, they just didn't want to talk about it. And so I really appreciate you sharing both what it meant to you, what it provided you, but also the opportunity to just take a moment and remember the power that was. Because I know for myself, because I would have been a bit older than you, it meant a lot to not have it. Surprisingly, back in that moment, it meant so much to have it be real and recognized. It's like you have Schindler's List, you have every 3 years, there's a new movie about the Holocaust. And I'm not hating. But what I am saying is it has not been easy for Americans to confront the actual harm of enslavement as done in the United States, not as done by Native Americans, not as done by African tribe.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop there. Yeah. I love conversations. I didn't know I was gonna go there, but I'm so glad you shared that.
Oh, thank you for the question.
What is a moment that highlights your experience as a Black man in the United States? Highlights or signifies, however you want to take that.
Yeah, man. We had at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, we had a Black commencement. The Black commencement was on the day before whatever college you were part of commencement. And so this is where you have as many tickets as you want. The main commencement, you get 3 tickets or something
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous, or you got to buy extras or whatever. But this one, you can get as many tickets as you want. We're gonna fill up the place. So my mom was there, my grandma was there, my father's mother, my siblings, and my mom's husband at the time. We just hanging out. We getting ready. Everyone's coming in the place. We get on stage. My last name is Branch, Ashanti Branch. Maybe there's one person before me. I think I was the first one, but I'm definitely early in. My first name is with an A and last name with a B. So one way or the other, I'm in the early stage. And then you get up. You get to have a time on the mic. The other graduations, you just stand up, move the tassel, sit back down. This one, you get up to the mic. You get to say something. You get to talk. And so I remember getting up, and I think there was one person before me. I think I can almost see her. But I remember, okay, what am I going to say? I haven't prepared a speech. So I'm a talker. And I was really just wanting to thank my mom and like really honor her. And I thank my brothers in my fraternity. 'Cause I think I was vice president that year. But anyway, I remember standing up and it literally at 2 words in, I start bawling. I can't even get I'm like, what in the world is happening here? And I can't even speak. I'm like, come on, get yourself together. What's wrong with you? And so then I definitely was the first man speaking. It was horrible. There's no cell phone footage from that day. I think somebody may have recorded it from the audience in a old school camcorder. But I remember
Right.
my buddy Maurice getting up shortly after me, and he's like, I ain't gonna be up here crying like Ashanti over here. And I was like, oh, just wait till this is over. Wait till the ceremony's over. Just wait till the ceremony's over. And we all laughed. We all laughed. I didn't expect to cry. I'm not a crier in that context, but it was this moment of brotherhood. He was one of my roommates in college, and everybody knew that he was jabbing at me, but it was a lot of love. But I think that ceremony was one of the moments that was like, okay, we made it through this. Cal Poly was hard. It took me 6 years to graduate, but I was committed to finishing. I was determined to finish. I was dedicated, and I was not going home with a degree. And so I think it was a moment for my own self of coming from Oakland, California, knowing that San Luis Obispo doesn't look like Oakland in many ways, and knowing that I had worked hard for it and I'd earned it. I'd earned it. I've had plenty of students at that school say, "Oh, you only got here because of affirmative action." And I've had plenty of debates with students about, "You don't know what you're talking about, first of all. But second of all, like, it didn't keep me here, whether it got me here or not. I had to pass these classes.
Mm.
I don't get no official gold pass to not do
Right.
homework, you know what I'm saying? So, whatever you think is the reason I got here, like, it wasn't gonna get
Right.
me finished through here." And so,
Right.
that ability to get there, do an amazing job, and finish was, for me, one of the highlights of my life, and so that's one of them. And I don't know, in a community where it didn't look like us, the Black people on the campus were really close, right? 'Cause there's only a few of you.
Yeah.
You're like
Yeah.
2% there. A lot of tight-knit community there, but that's one of the things that stands out right now in this moment.
I love the opportunity to experience your graduation in community, in a supportive community, in a loving community, because it makes it a celebration. I think today it's too easy to say, "Oh, you did that? All right, let's go to a cheesecake factory. Oh, you did that? Let's go. We're gonna have dinner. Oh, but so and so got to leave at this time," and versus really taking the time to honor whatever it is we're honoring. And I get that was there for you, which is why you were free to let loose. The other thing is, I appreciate you mentioning that it took you 6 years because too often you have to do it like this. If you didn't do it like this, then, but no, I'm sorry. He has a bachelor's of science. Thank you.
Mm. That's right. Every ounce of it, every ounce of that certificate, I earned it, you know what I'm saying?
Right?
Yeah.
And then I just have to double down on I it's only in the last 5 or 10 years that I really thought about affirmative action. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. It's not like I didn't know. That got me into Stanford. I know that. But it's not, I'm not even sure what triggered it. Now that I think about it, it was somebody arguing something, saying something stupid.
Yep. 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 That's
It
right.
was like, oh, you think because I got in
Yeah.
on a program, you think that because somebody gave me a little, go ahead, girl, go try it. You
Yeah.
shown yourself.
Yeah.
That then means that I'm not a graduate, that my graduation is less than,
Yeah.
that my knowledge is less than.
That's
I'm
right.
sorry, you're confused.
That's right. The argument I had with the guy on the middle of the quad who, when we talked for probably an hour and a half, maybe 2, this big white guy, was that he was like, "I got a friend that didn't get in because of somebody else." And I
Oh,
was like,
that. Oh, yeah.
"You're making it sound as if your friend is smarter than me. How do you know that?"
Uh-huh.
Well,
Uh-huh.
you're also making it sound like the fact that you are also. What I was realizing in the conversation, no amount of intelligence was he looking for in the argument. That he
Yeah.
had already had a decision made, and I
Yes.
realized that we made a little bit of pivot toward the end, but I think, like, it was like, "Dude, you're too smart to be standing here in front of me acting like that you don't understand of what happened in this world, and if you don't, then it's even more so how you get to play a game." And I think that
Mhm.
when we weren't yelling at each other, but it was a heated argument for a long time around
Yeah.
this belief. His belief that, oh, because I got in and because other people got in, his friend couldn't get in.
Mhm.
So, was your friend smarter than you? Then you maybe you took his position. Maybe you took your friend's position. You know what I'm saying? Why is it somebody else? Why is it somebody of color who had to take your friend's position? How about it was that you're smarter than him and you took his spot,
Yeah.
as opposed to like somehow everybody else who wasn't ready and wasn't
Right.
qualified took his spot. And I think that
Right.
like the idea of having a conversation where somebody is willing to hear rational thoughts
Yeah.
and be able to say, "Oh, that makes sense," or that, and the conversation wouldn't have lasted as long if it was a stone wall. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
it was a stone wall. It was like, I wanted to
He was
understand.
willing to engage in the
Yes, he was.
conversation.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
just wasn't willing to go all the way in the intellectual exchange and really try it on. And he
yeah,
still may have come to a different conclusion, but I know the difference you're talking about. It's not about that you have to agree with me. It's just, can you go there and step on the other side? And if you want to step back on the other side, go ahead. But did you
yeah,
step over?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. If you could
Mm.
spend 5 hours with any Black man from any time, who would it be and what would you do or what would you talk about?
I probably picked James Baldwin. That's what it's sounding right
Mhm.
today. When I saw the movie "I'm Not Your Negro," I I already had an appreciation for his ability with words. I've always been amazed at orators and watching his debates
Oh
and
my gosh, they're awesome.
watching his. I have a book that I'm not sure where it is. This was Margaret Mead, James Baldwin and Margaret Mead. It's called A Rap on Race.
Oh,
Rap on
I
Race.
have not read that. Okay.
Yeah, but just reading some of his stuff and like learning and just I want to have a command of words. As I think about it today, I'm like, where did you like he's a writer, I don't know, I'm not saying he's a poet, maybe he's a poet, but I know he's a writer. But I dream of having the ability to write well. I'm a much better orator, I think, than I am a writer. But I do recognize that when I stop and try and put some words together, I can be more crafty because I can move something and put it in.
Yes.
So it's like this idea of starting to tap into that part of my soul. And so I would have just asked him about writing from the heart, right? Writing from the soul, writing from pain, writing from fear, writing from vulnerability, writing from an intellectual consciousness. And I think that's what I would have wanted to probably sit with. That's what's calling me today. That's what's calling me today. Yeah, James Baldwin.
The interview I published a couple weeks back, that was he went all over the place. That's why I'm changing from 8 hours now. But anyway, he made it a dinner party. And then for dessert, but that was the thing. So he had all these people. And then he said, for dessert, I have coffee, James Baldwin. And it was so great to talk about him. And I hear you because James Baldwin, there's some people who recognize words as technology
Mhm.
and who master it like people master the saxophone. And James Baldwin mastered words. Yeah. If the United States was a woman with whom you could speak, mother, lover, sister, neighbor, stranger, what would you say to her?
I think the words that are coming to my mind first are I have a song in my head like that, "Why You Treat Me So Bad." I don't know who sings that song. Why? Why?
Yeah, sorry.
That no, that song right there. I know I was gonna give. I'm off. My tone is off right now, so I would give it a little serenade in a second. Like, why? What is it that is causing us to continue to ignore those that are here? Why do we continue to operate like we care about life when all the lives that are here that are ignored, that are sleeping on the streets, neglected, that are addicted to substances that they may have not chosen to be addicted to, but then we treat them like criminals. Like, why do you promise the pursuit of happiness when it's so hard to bring closer? Why do we continue doing that? Why do we continue to want to bring more life, new life, making decisions for women about what they do with their bodies. Why do we continue as a whole to make these sometimes decisions that don't seem to serve us? I don't know. I feel like I want to be in a poet mode, right? I want to be enraged also, but I want to speak calmly and clearly. I want to understand why we continue the system that we say we want to work and yet we don't. Yet we can find money. We can print money to continue holding dominance around the world, and yet we can continue watching people barely survive and blame them. I just don't understand. So yeah, that's where it starts right now. It's just that deep pain, how we treat each other, the planet, treat the original peoples here, how we barely apologize for things that we've done to cause harm, all for power. For power. We can't apologize. How dare us apologize to all the families and generations we've harmed? How dare us? Right? That's why it's a big deal when any politician apologizes for something because everyone's we don't need to apologize for that. It was what we needed to do to build America. So we're not like, oh, I got you. You don't have the ability to empathize. So we're just gonna let the power keep powering, right?
Yeah.
We America get to keep testing whether our rules and our laws actually mean something, and we're now being held to account for these things, for these conditions and these conventions that we expect people to act like. And so when people now break those and we decide, oh, do these laws have any meanings? I think some change is coming.
Yeah.
And so maybe you haven't been wanting change that come. Maybe you've been thinking that it was going to always be the way it was. Now it's been tested.
Yeah.
How much do your laws and constitution mean anything? Is it real? Is it alive? Or is it a dead document sitting behind some plexiglass just so we can go and look at it and put it in a museum? We're
We
gonna
about
get
to
tested.
find out.
We gonna find out today.
I feel like we about to find out.
We's about to find out. We all are. We all are.
Yeah. Serious.
Yeah.
Like serious. So thank you. What I hear are, sister, I got some questions.
Yeah, I got a lot of
We need it.
questions.
I got some questions and these are things you say. This is what you profess.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at that dress.
This is what I'm
Man,
seeing. This is what I'm seeing.
right?
Oh, man.
So last question, based on your particular expertise and your perspective, what excites you about the future of the United States?
Yeah. What excites me about the future of the United States? I have decided that I am not going to let the way it always has been be the way that I act like it has to be.
I'm all ears.
Like, my passion is education. So if you look at most schools USA, they look like they did 100 years ago.
Oh, true.
But what other industry in the US looks like it did 100 years ago? There's none, pretty much. You can probably find one, but maybe one. But we expect it to be successful and work like it did 100 years ago. Like, why would you expect something that's 100 plus years old to be working the same way it did 100 years ago, working effectively today? It's not. Schools aren't working effectively. They're working maybe by design, not effectively, but at a time they were designed for certain things to get people ready to go out into the workforce and to work and follow a bail system that goes in and out, clock in, clock out, clock in, clock out, go home in 20, 30, 40 years. We'll send you home in retirement. When we don't provide those things anymore, but yet we still expect schools to provide the type of people who come out of them ready for the world in a new way. And so my vision is what I'm excited about is that I finally found that I have work to do. Like I thought I was going to do is just do this mentoring work and then help some kids here in the Bay Area. And I think my vision has gotten bigger than can be contained right here in the Bay Area. And I have a vision of transforming education. I don't want to get into politics. I'm irritated by politics. I'm annoyed by it. Also, I know that sadly that's just how our world works in a lot of ways. So I'm having to be creative on how that's going to happen. It's going to look different, but I'm in the process of building out not only content, collaborations, conversations with teachers, educators, parents, and sometimes these people who have these titles to really rethink how we're going to do school from now into the future. And it's going to look different. And we're going to have young people speaking up to what they want to see different. And so my excitement is that I've finally gotten clear about the work. My job was to come back and be a teacher to be able to go and build the next part of this work. So not only have I been a teacher in public school and private school and charter schools, high school and middle school, not only have I been a classroom teacher and administrator, I've also worked on the outside of schools, working in and watching how the rhetoric of what people say they want to do and improve schools is oftentimes empty. I don't have the patience for a lot of the political landscape. And my excitement is I am in the creation phase of what we're going to build. What we're going to build is the education for the future. It's going to look so different and it's going to work for way more kids. The schools that already work for those kids who works for, they can stay there. They can stay there. But for the ones who's not working for it, has not been working for it, still doesn't work for it, and we still force them to go every day, like acting like they're somehow just going to get it. We're going to build it for them. And I have lots of ideas, and we're about to get some young people to help us build that first, that brotherhood with that community. And then we're going to build the next chapter of this work. So I don't know what it is. It's the first time I've said it out loud, but I'm excited that I am now finding the voice that has been 20 years in the making. And now it's time to bring it forward and bring it to the front.
I have to tell you, I'm excited as someone who's been in education for 3 decades. Since computers entered the classroom, I've been wondering, when is it going to be? And I had these visions when I was more faithful and less cynical about education, that it was just a matter of time. It was a natural evolution that I thought, what if we got rid of these subjects, English, Spanish, like these things that's not how life is. And we allowed students to do more project-based stuff. And they only have to come. You don't need a teacher. And I know I belong to a union and I like it, but maybe we don't need all the teachers. Maybe you need one teacher for 30 kids, more like a supervisor of education. And then you have people from all over the community who provide learning and who are paid well to give some of their time to teach. You're not dependent on people volunteering who they got a $250,000 job being an entrepreneur and you want them to come speak for an hour. There's so many things we could do. And now we've got AI and now we can do things remote. And why are kids still off on summer? And why is it 8 to 2? Why? And look, I say that now because I'm on my way out, because I like summers off and I like it. And I like getting off at 3. And that's why it's staying that way. But that ain't helping nobody's kids. It's just helping me enjoy my life.
Yes.
Okay. So
We are. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. And we should. And we all should.
And we should. And
And
we
we
should.
should. We
And
should.
maybe I could still enjoy my life, still have a great schedule, but maybe I wouldn't. Maybe kids get 2 weeks off. Maybe we do year round and let them do things out in the world for 3 weeks at a time, age appropriate. All I'm saying is, God bless you, and I hope you do this. I am going to tell you, though, you are talking to a woman who has become quite cynical. When we talked, I told you that we are in person on a program that is so not working, and it works so badly that they realize they have to change it. So now we're getting next year a new, all online. It's the same thing, but different. We know you don't eat ham, so we got you pork chops.
Yay. Okay. Why did any intelligent person think, you know what? These group of 30, 50 kids are doing so bad at math. Let's give them 2 math classes. You know what? I think that what they need is just more math and they will love math. Like, when I first was assigned that class, I was like, "What is that thing? What is that thing called?" "Oh, that's gonna be the support class." I'm like, "What you mean?" "Oh, these are for the kids who don't like math and who don't like." I'm like, "What we doing? What we doing in that class? More math." I'm like, "Okay, somebody's punking me here. Somebody's punking me." You didn't just say what you just said to a human who, first of all, is a little smart and a lot sarcastic. So maybe somewhat cynical too. But I'm definitely smart and sarcastic. So you just said the kids who are doing bad at math, we gonna give them two of them. Who gonna tell them? Who gonna tell them? And I literally was like, "Who's gonna create the curriculum for that? You are. You mean, oh, I'm gonna create a curriculum for kids who don't want to do math and for their second math class? Oh, good luck. Okay."
Oh, and how much freedom do I have? Oh, you're free to do anything you want as long as it's the same standards and it's the same book and the same test at the end. But
Oh, by the way,
run with
hey, go on for it. I'm like, all right, guess what? We gonna have some fun in there. We gonna have some fun in there. And that was the funnest class ever. And whatever rules they thought they were setting me up for, I was like, "Hey, you let me design it. We gonna design it, and we gonna do something amazing." And when I saw that happen, when I created that,
Yeah.
like there was this thing they had created, and I was like, "Yeah, it's creative, but it's still too much like the other class." And the
Oh,
kids, it's too much like the other one. So we're gonna do something different. And that's what the next chapter is gonna be. So it's gonna be a new way of thinking about how schools work, and we're gonna stop making decisions about kids without kids being in the building, in the room, in the
mhm.
in the conversation.
I always finish the interview with an acknowledgement. And Ashanti, you are all heart. It's no wonder that when you got to the mic, all of that came out because you live from your heart. How you interact with the teens is from your heart. And I hear that just from how you talk about what you did in this class, what you're creating for them, where we live, where our soul is nurtured. That's what I mean by all heart. So thank you for nurturing the souls of our young people.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks
Yes.
for inviting. I'm glad to be here. I had a great time. I don't know when you all are out of school, but May 16th is Mental Health Action Day, and MTV
Oh,
hosted this day, May 16th, the Thursday. We'll love your students or your school to make masks on that day. Beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and click the bell so that you're notified when new episodes arrive.